Hi. Hi, today I'm going to talk about arguments because if you've not had any, been at home in isolation with your family, then you're doing very well, and the chances are at some point you will, because we're all thrown together in very close proximity, which isn't necessarily what we're used to, and that is inevitably going to cause tensions, etc., to rise. We're quite lucky in that my husband and I both already work from home, so we're kind of used to working around each other. When we first started doing that, we had lots of irritations with each other, and we do still have irritations. But I guess in the current climate, a lot of the irritations become less important because there's more important things to worry about. Even now, you'll see that I'm in a different room today because he's taken over my counselling room. That usually irritates me. I'm trying not to be irritated. I'm not moaning too much about the mess that he's making in there because it can always be cleared up. But inevitably, people are going to start getting annoyed at each other. We are going to have fallouts. We are going to have to find a way to put up with each other's annoying habits and idiosyncrasies for quite some time yet. So, bearing in mind that these arguments are inevitable, I think to some extent you have to plan for them. You are going to fall out with each other. You are going to overreact to things. We're all walking around holding all this tension inside of us, and it's inevitable that one day we're going to snap and say something that we might regret. So, in terms of planning for them, it's not a bad word to have, almost like a safe word, that when you say this word, pink flamingos or something, that's the clue that you basically both go off and keep separate for a little while, calm down separately, come together and try and talk it through. And when you do talk it through, try and say it in a non-accusatory fashion. So don't say, you made a mess of my office. You might say something like, I feel like that's more work for me to do clearing out, that kind of thing. So make it about an I word rather than a you word, because that sounds less accusatory and it means that perhaps the argument is less likely to turn into something really nasty. Apologise. Make sure that if you've overreacted, you apologise, you explain that you're feeling very tense, that you may have not responded appropriately, explain what's going on for you, have a hug, move on, and expect it's going to happen again because we're a long way from this being over. Especially the case with children. If we're going through lots of tension and stress, we can only imagine what's going through our kids' minds when they've got much less control than we do over what's happening, and we don't have very much, but also they don't really understand risk, they don't understand statistics, there's all kinds of stuff that they're going on. They've got all these big emotions that they can't necessarily name. So when your kids act up or become incommunicative or have tantrums, and they will, focus on the emotion that's driving that, not the behaviour. So if they're doing something that's really irritating you, why they're doing it, there's something behind it. They're not necessarily just doing it to annoy you. When you're trying to speak to them about what's going on for them, you're not going to get through to them while they're in a state of high anxiety. So trying to calm them first so that their brain can then focus on what you're saying is really, really important. When a child is having a big panic attack, you can't get through to them at all. It's a case of holding them, if you can hold them. Even if you can't hold them because they're maybe being very physical in their response, try and be next to them. To be honest, try and avoid things like time out because that can make them feel more alone. You can have time in where you sit next to them and they have to be quiet and calm. And practicing those breathing techniques that I showed you yesterday is really important to get them to calm, because only then can they actually hear what you're saying, and only then can they tell you what it is they're trying to say, what point they're trying to make. And it's hard if they're not used to naming those emotions. So calming first, then communication. Make sure you explain to them why you're behaving the way that you are. Make sure you apologise if you've done something wrong, and explain to them that you're scared too, that it's okay for them to be scared, that the main thing is they talk to you about it, and that you'll all basically get through this together as a tight team. So it is going to be hard. There are going to be arguments. It's inevitable. We just have to hold on and know we can all get through it together. Now, for some people, being cooped up at home is even more dangerous if they're in an abusive relationship, and it's important that they know they can still get help. So in the post that's going to go with this video, I'm going to put some useful links, etc., if you feel that you need to escape from home because you're in actual danger. Thank you. Stay home. Stay safe.